Okay.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's session. We are glad to have you with us here this morning. So if you are here and we'd like to greet you as well, so maybe you can just type your name under the comment. Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's session. We are glad to have you with us here this morning. So if you are here and we'd like to greet you as well, so maybe you can just type your name under the comment. Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's session. Yep. So you can say good morning to everyone as well. Right. So while we are still waiting for people to join us, yeah, it will be good to just say good morning to each other, even though we cannot see each other. Hi, good morning, Xiao Ying. Yeah, good to see some familiar name here. Good morning, Cynthia. Good morning, Jacqueline. Yeah, we're going to start in a while's time. Yeah, and just to let our speaker get ready for the morning. Okay. Just wait for one more minute and we will start. So if you know that your friends have signed up and have not logged in, you might want to give them a text and tell them that we are live now. Okay, let's welcome our speaker for this morning, Benson. Right, Benson, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Hi,
Okay.
everybody. Welcome.
Yeah, we can't see you. You have to on your video.
Okay,
Yeah.
coming on. Hello, hello.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to help us in this topic, which I think that is very timely even at this period. Uh,
Mm,
yeah.
mm,
And yeah, just to let you know that the viewers are watching from YouTube, and there's actually a latency of about 10 to 15 seconds. Yeah, so just for you to know. Yeah. So currently we have about 30 viewers now, 44 now. We have 44 viewers now. Yeah. So I will leave you to introduce yourself.
all right.
Yeah. So I will pass the time now over to Benson, and Benson will bring us through today on this very important topic during this period of our history and of our society at this moment. Okay, so Benson, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kwan Ming. It is always a privilege to share and always a privilege to be part of this Paya Lebar family. And I really find that I want to thank each and every one of you for spending your precious Saturday morning with us. I believe it will be a fruitful session as the Lord leads and guides us. Okay, let me get onto my screen to share screen so that you can see the slides straight away. Okay, here we are. I hope you can all see this, and we'll just get on. Welcome again to Beating the Blues. Let me just start off with this. Oops. All right, this is going to be our coverage for this next few minutes. We will be doing what we call part of it, four segments. One on anxiety. We'll try to understand a little bit about anxiety, depression, treatment, some treatment options, and intervention ideas. Now, before we start, let's firstly examine and kind of put in place what is the context of the term blues. And I wrote this in the synopsis when we had invite all of you to sign up. And we had a little bit of understanding about what this could possibly be, all right? Just Googling the terminology blues, you can in fact have an idea of what the term could mean. All right, it could be a type of music that we are familiar with, but basically in this context this morning, it is about low-spirited feelings, feelings of melancholy, sadness, lethargy, disinterest, and some people refer it to as Monday blues, holiday blues, morning blues. So what exactly is it are we talking about? Basically, it's an emotion. In today's talks context, it's just about that kind of feeling that gets us really down and upset. Now, before we do that, I like to again get out of this for a while and invite you to tell me a little bit about some reflection question that I believe Guan Ming will help me with. There are basically 4 questions that I'd like to invite you to participate now. Guan Ming, can you help us with these 4 questions?
Yes, let me share the screen. Okay, so there are 4 questions here that we'd like you to respond. And how do you respond to the questions? Simply take out your handphone to scan this QR code, right? Once you scan the QR code, you're able to go into the Slido page, and you can just key in your answer there and send to us, right? We'll be able to see your answer straight away. So once again, take out your phone, scan this QR code here, and just key in the answer and send to us. So we will encourage all of you to participate in this activity so that you will make this whole session more fruitful and interactive for you and for us as well, right? So you can just wait a few seconds for you to respond to these 2 questions, yeah? So maybe just let me read it out to you. It says, who is more likely to suffer from depression or anxiety? Youths, adults, or elderly? Will you seek help immediately if you think you suffer from depression or anxiety? Yeah, thank you for the first one to respond. Yeah, so we'll just wait a while more. So just take out your phone, right? Scan the QR code and then just key in your answer and send to us. Thank you. Thank you.
Nice,
And
nice. Yes, nice. I think everyone's getting the hang of it.
yeah. So if Benson, just let me know if you want to move to the next
Yeah,
question.
yeah. It sounds like everyone is unanimous in their perception that there is no specific group. If you look at all the responses that are coming, although some people think that it's the elderly, but the majority apparently are saying elderly and youth, right? But basically later on, you'll see some data that will reflect. Certainly, it is elderly at risk. The data, Singapore's statistics is also showing us that our youth is increasingly getting to be at risk. But essentially, the message is clear: everyone, all age group. Thanks, Guan Ming. Let's move on to the next.
Okay, let's go to the next
Thank you, everyone.
question. Right, same thing, just key in your answer to and send it to us, right? Do you know when to seek help? If yes, how quickly, right? Do you know when to seek help? If yes, how quickly? Thank you for the response. Okay, thank you, thank you.
Couple of no's. Majority is no. Yes, ASP. Yes, ASP, okay. I mean, it looks like majority don't really know, and if those who do know, kind of say as soon as possible. Nice.
Yeah, it
Nice.
looks like a lot of no's.
Yeah, maybe that's why you organize this talk, huh, Guan Ming?
Yeah.
So that we can be better informed.
Yes,
Right.
that's right. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's look at the
Okay,
next
let's
question.
go
Thank
to
you.
the last question. Okay, same thing. Just send us your answers. Do you know where to seek help? Right? If yes, name one resource. Right? No. Okay. Thank you for the answer. Thank you for the response.
Again,
No.
no, no. Singapore Association of Mental Health, nice. Church counseling, nice. Otherwise, IMH, church counseling, when depression is more than a few months. I'll write this down.
Friends and
Yes,
church.
friends and church.
SOS.
Nice, nice. Looks
Helplines.
like, yeah, helplines, yes. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but seems to be quite a majority of no as well.
Yeah, yeah. But those who know also you are able to identify at least
Yes.
one resource, and I think that's really encouraging.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
People do really know, and they do. Yes, thank you so much, everyone. Okay, Guan Ming, shall I get back to my share
Sure.
screen again?
Yeah, let me
Thank you.
stop the poll. Thank you everyone for participating. We really like this kind of participation. So I'll pass the time now back to Benson again.
Okay, I'll share screen again, and let's get back here. Right. Okay, here we are. We were talking about how we define and how to place it in our context of what it really means. So thank you. Now, I just again want to set the context that given this definition of what blues, feeling blue, feeling low and down and lethargic and the whole works, all right? What does this feeling of blue, being blue, for example, can the weather affect our moods? And I tried to look at all different sources, and you find that I'm sure you can attest to it. Yes, that the weather, in fact, the last few days has been a bit cloudy and rainy, and you do catch ourselves saying, "Yeah, I don't feel like going out today." Because it's really wet or something, and persons in other parts of the world will also have some of this impact when they have different seasons, right? And there are studies done that, in fact, I was quite surprised actually that if you look at this last bit here in a study done, that suicides do peak during spring and summer in some countries. So in fact, it does have a little bit of impact on our moods and feelings, if you like. Now, what about color? I thought this was also quite interesting. Can color affect our mood? And again, if we look at the experts to share some of their findings with us, there is such a thing as what we call color psychology. And research tells us that different colors does in some way affect our mood. And there is even a very specialized area called color psychology, although it is not fully, there's not fully attested that this does really work. But I do remember when I first started work from a social service organization for more than a decade, and then I switched on to corporate type of setting. I remembered one of my friends telling me, "Ben, now you're going into corporate world, be careful of your dressing, make sure you go to office every day, and whatever tie you're using, your shirt top has got to be in colors of bluish, gray, white. Never wear anything that is too strong, orange, yellow kind of thing." But obviously, this guy knows that this does impact a certain behavior. All right, so think about this. Color does affect mood. What about music? My favorite, music. Listen to a little bit of this. Have you heard of this song? It's a bit arcade. Love is blue.
Blue, blue, my world is blue. Blue is my world, now I'm without you. Gray, gray, my life.
You've heard this many times, right? Music. Some of us, when we are down, we tell ourselves over and over again, or we just basically switch on our handphones and we try to listen to music, and we have experienced that before. That music can, in a very strong way, lift up our moods. Or it can work the other way around. We may be in a good mood, but sometimes a sad piece of music does trigger a bad memory or does trigger a bad experience, and it can in fact increase anxiety for some persons. But again, there could be something here that impacts again our mood. Now, another area, what about food? Again, an area that we are all, as Singaporeans, I believe, we can align ourselves to this. We are down, we are upset, we eat, and it does pick us up. Right? Many things. I don't have time to go through the list. Coffee, all of us, a lot of us need coffee to boost and pick us up. Alcohol, if we consume that, it does slow us down. Vitamin, minerals, different types of carbohydrates, fat, refined sugars, even junk food, etc. And foods, many, all right? It does, and it can affect our mood. Now, let me ask again to let you reflect, where are we going from here? In fact, I've only shown you things like music, the weather, mood, color. Think about this. There are many things, even how much sleep we get, it does affect us. And the list is just too many for me to go through. So what has all this got to do with the blues? What has all this got to do with depression and anxiety? Now, if you think about, again, if I use the metaphor, blue, and if you try to link it with us getting a very seemingly insignificant bruise or a blue black or something, if you like, if we don't do anything about that injury, all right, and we know that it can get quite nasty, it can impact us, and if we don't treat it in time, sometimes it can happen. That's how it is with depression and anxiety, all right? The experts tells us that these are one of the most insidious disease, if you like, and in fact, as what you have done and reflected and responded in the poll, it can affect anybody. And the disease, in fact, when you see the symptoms, if you don't do anything about it, that's how the blues can turn into blue-black, and you can get sucked in this black hole, and it can get really dreadful. So let's ask ourselves again, bring ourselves into this blue that can in fact develop into what I call a mental health issue. And if we look at Singapore's statistics, this anxiety and depression, in fact, is one of the two biggest mental health issues in Singapore, affecting quite, although only 1/5, it still can affect us in quite a large way. So let's deal with the first one, anxiety. What really is it? We all have been there, we've understood, and we have even experienced it many times. Now, I'm going to give you a few of these statements on whether you think this is a fact or a myth. And after I flash this, Guan Ming is going to help me again to get a poll on how you feel about this. The first one, anxiety is in your head, and anxiety disorders are not a true illness. Is it a fact or myth? People with generalized anxiety disorder are weak and should just pull themselves together. The short acronym for this is GAD, G-A-D. Third statement, avoiding anxiety-producing situation is a good way to manage GAD. So you don't want to get this disease, easy, just avoid it. Avoid anxiety-producing situation. Is this true or false? And the last question, people who are anxious should be forced to do the things they are afraid of. That means don't be afraid, right? If you are afraid of cockroaches, just face it. Okay, if I'm afraid of exams, just go through it, kind of thing. Now, I'm going to get out of this again and ask Guan Ming to help us with this poll one more time, and let me have your feedback.
Sure. So let's do the poll. Okay, so it's the same thing as just now. What you need to do is to just scan the QR code and then just choose one of the answers that you think is correct. Okay, you can just take a few minutes, a few seconds to wait for you to take out your phone and just scan the QR code and just choose one of the answers. Right, since anxiety is in your head, anxiety disorders. Wow, that's fast. Okay, let's see how many of you choose which one.
So the first question, Kwan Mei,
Yes.
anxieties is in your head and it is not really a true illness. Participants are responding with a 100%, meaning they all agree it is a myth. Is that it?
They are agreeing to the sentence.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I guess if they agree to the sentence, then they are agreeing that it's a fact.
Okay, understand. Okay.
Yeah.
And the second statement, people with generalized anxiety, people who are generalized anxiety are weak and should just pull themselves together.
Yeah, that's 5% of
Okay, so
21 responses.
okay, so they don't really agree, right?
They agree. So when they click, that means they agree.
Okay, they agree.
Yeah.
A bit confusing here. Huh?
Yeah. So if they choose, that means they agree to that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I hope everybody understood that. I'm so sorry that we should have made this clearer.
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please bear with us. This should have been clearer. If you click on respond, right, that means you agree that the statement is a fact.
Mm.
Is that right, Kwan Mei?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So if
Yeah.
I read this correctly, 100% of the first statement. Can we go back to the first statement?
The first statement is which
Anxiety
one?
is in your head.
Anxiety is in your head. Anxiety disorder are not true illnesses. That's 4%.
Okay. So only 4% agree that this is true. It's a
Yes.
fact. Okay,
Yes.
understand. All right, very good. Let me deal with it one statement at a time. All right. If anxiety is in your head, anxiety disorder is not true. This is definitely a myth. Okay, definitely is not true. In fact, anxiety disorders, right? Or more, whatever your diagnosis is definitely a diagnosed a disease. It is a true illness. All right, it's a true illness, and in fact, it should be taken seriously. And sometimes people, unfortunately, don't see it as something to be quickly to do something about it, and it can be quite debilitating. It can ordinary things that we are fearful about, anxious about. If it gets too much, we should quickly do something about it. All right. Now let's look at the next statement. People with generalized anxiety are weak and should just pull themselves together.
That's 4%.
4% agree.
Agree. Yes.
Nice. So the majority don't agree. Again, very good, because this is definitely people who are anxious. All right, with G diagnosed with GAD, it cannot be associated with weakness. In fact, anxiety is not a diagnosis, right, that is associated with a character weakness. It does not mean just because I'm diagnosed with anxiety disorder, I have a weakness in my character. So that should be, in fact, deleted from our mind, because it's very overwhelming. It can be very impairing, and it can impact us in a very large way if we allow it to continue. Third statement, avoiding anxiety producing situation is good way to manage GAD.
That's the highest poll, 64%.
Meaning everyone agrees,
60.
64% agrees
Agree.
with this.
Yes.
Okay. I'm afraid to say it's also a myth, right? We should not avoid anxiety-producing situations because staying away from things and situations that promise fear only strengthen that anxiety. All right. So just now I mentioned about some examples. Actually, a better way is to try to give as much support to this person as much as possible, to support and deal with the situation as much as possible, and in fact to very quickly get it diagnosed, whether is it a true disorder, and get treatment as quickly as possible. Right. Now, the last one, people who are anxious should be forced to do the things that they are afraid of.
That's 29%.
Okay. Again, if you disagree in the sense that this is not a fact, it's a myth, all right? People should not be forced, because if we force anyone to do this, it can backfire. Okay, it can backfire, and instead, persons with anxiety should be supported and understood and tolerated as much as possible, because in fact there are many kinds of treatment. Behavioral therapy help them recognize irrational fears and help us to learn and deal with it as much as possible, and given the right professional support, antidepressants and all this can help. Okay, let's this is just a rough idea of where we are. Let's get back. Guan Ming, thank you so much again. I will get back to my screen, and I will do the share screen again, and we get back here. So sorry that we have to go in and out. We were at here, right? Okay, we've covered some of this. So let's now take a look really at what really is anxiety. Now, it's a common problem. This is the first thing we must remember, anxiety. So it does not mean, please do not after this talk run off to say that, oh no, I have anxiety, therefore I have a problem. All of us have anxiety at one point of time. But if the person feels a need to control their surrounding, their outcomes and events in life, then it can be very overwhelming, and that's a very different thing altogether. In fact, in different cases, people suffer panic attacks, and some of these symptoms can include what I call racing pulse. You know, you can even hear your pulse racing, excessive perspiration, nervous shaking, even excessive thoughts, just going on and on and on, and they just can't control it, and inability to concentrate. It's a combination of this sometimes. So what is GAD actually? This is remember I call a diagnosed disorder, GAD. It is a very chronic, which means it's long term. It can be as an exaggerated worry and tension. You can't just sweep it under the carpet and just say it's nothing, I'm just worrying, okay, because there is what we call a lot of irrationality there. A lot of them cannot sleep and relax, and in fact, women are twice much more at risk than men, and highest usually in childhood and middle age. Right? Signs and symptoms of GAD, I can provide you a whole list, but again, don't get too caught up in this. Some of us may have this one time or other, but it doesn't mean you have this, you are diagnosed with it. You need to get a proper diagnosis. So don't run off thinking that these are your symptoms, because we do get it once in a while at different periods of time. So that is not really the clue to the fact that you have this illness. So again, the issue is get yourself diagnosed if you think you are in that direction. Now, anxiety and depression are like cousins, okay? It can lead to each other. In fact, IMH tells us that depression is dubbed as the common cold of mental health problems. And the thing about anxiety and depression is like that, you know, it's like a common cold, we get it, but the thing is that how bad is it before we start to do something about it? And we hear a lot of news, we read about it in the papers, as you have done your reflection in the poll just now, everyone is at risk, okay? Even heads of states, leaders, our, if you are a fan of popular singers and stars, they do get it. And the papers do reflect that there are hints that they are suffering from depression all over the world, right? If you remember this, very sadly, I read this, a 34 woman who suffered from anxiety and depression left notes expressing her sorrow, and that she, in fact, mentioned that she just cannot live any longer with anxiety and depression. Very sad. In Singapore, we have this case just last year about this very troubling news about a mother of six who unfortunately, impacted. Her illness was so harmful that in fact her very innocent babies and children are all affected by it, and all unfortunately they lost their lives because of the mother who is involved in this, right? Depressive, diagnosed with major depressive disorder, again a condition that caused her even to attempt suicide. Very, very sad. So the worst that can happen, what is the worst that can happen if we have this illness? It can be very, very tragic, in fact, if you like, to cause lives even to be lost. So don't take it lightly, all right? I also read this blogs somewhere of this 16-year-old male in Singapore, right, in an IP school. But I just wanted to show you this, that he has been having depression for 4 years, also suffered from social anxiety. Now, I want you to read this line. He does not want to let his parents know because he thinks, this may not be true, the parents may not be feeling this, may not have this, right? But this poor 16-year-old boy has this perception that he thinks that the parents will view his depression as laziness and will not see it as a real mental disorder. Really sad. So because of that, he may not be in that position to even want to seek help, all right? And he at a point where he don't even want to do anything about it and just internalize and just want to end his suffering. So let's look at what the Singapore statistic is telling us. It is a common disorder, although 1 in 10 will suffer from mental illness, but in terms of depression, let's look at this little video clip.
1 in 16 people, or 6% in Singapore, have suffered from depression in their lifetime, making it the most common mental illness here. And this is followed by alcohol abuse and obsessive compulsive disorder. These were the findings of a Singapore mental health study conducted last year. According to the study, 12% of the population will have at least one form of mental illness in their lifetime. The majority of them will be hit by the time they're 29 years old. The study also found it took an average of 4 years for someone suffering from depression to seek help.
Speak to someone about it. It can be someone in the community, it can be a doctor, it can be a psychiatrist. Every doctor in Singapore has basic training as a medical student to manage mental health. But in the last few years, a lot more effort has been put in to increase the capability of our GPs.
So this is what we have from the experts, and I put it down in point form. If you can just take a quick glance over this. What is more important is, I like to highlight, is this: 2 in 3 never sought help. Now, I was appalled by this fact. 2/3 of persons who are suffering never sought help. Now, this does give us the impression that mental illness, in fact, if we want to zero in on depression, there's still some social stigma here, all right? And we are talking about young people in their 20s. And there is another thing. I don't know if you heard that in the video clip. The average time taken for persons to seek help for major depressive disorder is how long? 4 years. My goodness, isn't that a long time? 4 years for people to even want to do something about this situation. And I'm glad just now at the beginning of this session, when we asked you how quickly will you seek help, a lot of us I'm so encouraged, brothers and sisters, that you said you will seek help ASAP, immediately. Yes, that should be the way. Think of it. If you have the cold and flu, just a fever, anything, any physiological symptoms, straight away we seek help, we see a doctor. Now, why not depression? Apparently, people here, when they are polled, they said 4 years. That's a very long time. And unfortunately, sometimes even too late. Okay, we're going to do again another fact or myth here statements. And when Kuan Ming takes over to ask you about whether this is a fact or a myth, again, if you agree that it is a fact, all right, let's just put it very clear. If you agree whether this is a fact or a myth, this statement, depression is rare and is unlikely to happen to me, all right? Depression is about feeling sad. Depression is a sign of weakness. Depression is temporary and will go away by itself. Depression cannot be treated. Depression can only be treated by medication. So once more, I will get out of this screen and you can quickly get to the poll, and Kuan Ming will help us again with this.
So let's do the poll again. Let's be the... Okay, so if you think that it is a fact, then you choose that, right? So there are 6 here. Right, so same thing, scan the QR code and just choose the one that you think is the fact.
Yeah. If you don't agree it's a fact, don't click,
choose.
right?
Yeah.
Don't choose it. Don't choose it. So very clear here. All of these statements, if you agree it is a fact, click. If you don't agree it's a fact, just leave it alone. Correct, Kuan Ming?
Yes, that's right. So
right,
choose
statement.
the, yeah.
Yes.
Choose
First
the one
statement.
that you think is the fact. Sorry. Yeah.
Absolutely. First statement, depression can only be treated by... Is that the first statement? I thought my first statement is depression is rare.
It will, the thing will change in order depending on the percentage. Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, you'll go in that ranking.
I see.
Yeah, so you can just read off your statements. Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like the half, less than half of our participants here agree that depression can only be treated by medication.
Yes, that's right.
This will be statement, last statement, 45%. Now, again, this is a myth. It's not true, all right? It's not true that depression can only, the word here is only treated by medication, because there are so many other ways of intervention and treatment for depression. There are counseling, there are various non-invasive methods, there are medication, in fact, is one of the only, is only one of the available form of option for treatment of depression. There are many other ways. Next statement, depression is about feeling sad. 39% agree. This is statement number 2, right? Again, it's another myth. Remember, depression is more than just feeling sad. Okay, depression is more than just feeling sad. If you are diagnosed professionally by someone who is trained, and it is not just feeling sad, which is why there is a lot of myths surrounding this, because people tend to respond, come on, get out of it, you know, don't feel depressed all the time, all right, come on, go out, do something. And they think that depression is just one of those, feeling blues, all right? Depression is more than just feeling blue. It is deeper than that, more serious than that, and it can be very harmful. And especially if it's persistent, it can involve a lot of physical symptoms. And if it continues for more than 2 weeks, it can be very worrying. All right, let's look at the next one. Okay, I've done that already. What about the third one? Depression is a sign of weakness. That is statement number 3. Again, it is a myth. Just like anxiety, It is not associated with the character. All right, just because someone is feeling depressed, it is unrelated at totally. It is a serious medical condition, just like asthma, just like diabetes, and any other medical condition. It is not a sign of weakness. Unfortunately, the world is very unkind. You have people in a working world, even in social groups. If we know of someone who's diagnosed with depression, we tend to avoid them. We tend to think that they are lesser than the average person next to him, but it is not true. Okay, he can perform just as well if the condition is treated. Now, 6% agree that depression is rare and unlikely to happen to me. That's the first statement. Absolutely false. It's a myth. Remember, a lot of you put that in your reflection question when we first started. Depression can happen to what? Anybody. Okay, it can happen to anyone, it can happen to anybody, and don't think, even me, myself, as a counselor, pastors, leaders, anybody, right, it can happen. Now, depression is temporary and will go away. That is the statement. Again, it is a myth. In fact, it will not go away by itself. If you are diagnosed, it will not go away by itself. You need again to get it treated. And the last one, depression cannot be treated. Nobody agreed with that. Wonderful, very good. Depression can in fact be treated. Thank you, Guan Ming, again for your help. And let me get back to my screen to see and to continue the sharing. All right. And we were here at facts and myths. I think we were here. Okay, let's go back then to identify what is depression. Okay, we have completed this. Now, let's ask the experts, what is depression? We feel sad from time to time, that's feeling the blues. But again, please remember, it is more than that. All right, it is more than feeling sad. It can affect you. It can impact many areas in your life. It is not a sign of weakness. It will not just go away. It can happen to anyone. It is a medical condition, can impact the way you function. In fact, in Singapore, we have already seen what are the statistics there, right? Women relatively are greater at risk, more in married persons than unmarried groups. What else? We have, well, they say it's much more common in the lower income group, but I think it is a very small, significant number. The retired person, unemployed, are more at risk apparently, okay? And those who are living alone are also at higher risk. So social isolation, in fact, I was sharing with some of my friends and my cell group as well that since the start of COVID and circuit breaker, my quest for counseling for persons who are suffering from social isolation went up by more than 10 times. People just needed that someone to talk to, so it can impact us, okay? And what are the causes? Again, many is multifaceted, and people always think it's genes, but it plays a very small role. It is there, but it's not like a cast in stone kind of thing. You can't think that just because your parents have it or someone in the family have it, it's a very small percentage. In fact, I want you to concentrate on this. It is all here, all right? A large part of it is in our thinking patterns, which I'll show you much later. So there are other types of causes, like if we are already predisposed with certain personality traits like OCD, compulsive disorders, dependent personalities, borderline personalities can also impact us, okay? Other causes, if we have medical condition or we are already with some form of substance abuse, drugs and alcohol, again, that can impact and put us at higher risk of getting depression. Signs and symptoms. Okay, many, again, it can affect us, but I'll just like you to just concentrate on 5 or more of the following, and the key clue or the key guideline here is if you are manifesting any of 5 of the more symptoms for 2 weeks or longer, that is the cue, all right? That is where you need to quickly get help, right? 2 weeks or more with 5 or more of this. So once in a while, look, a lot of us, once in a while, we do feel we lose weight, we can't concentrate, we can't sleep, we have some of this. But the clue is if we have 5 or more of this for more than 2 weeks, it may point us to that direction. And I thought a very helpful source here to help us remember, we can't remember a lot of this, right? Is this acronym called SAD cages, where I put it in some colorful slide like this to help us remember that this is an acronym where if you have sleep disturbances, appetite changes, depressive moods, concentration issues, anhedonia, loss of interest in enjoyable activities, guilt, shame, energy loss. Look at that, it's the whole list. So this, remembering SAD cages, just choosing 5 or more of this for more than 2 weeks is a good way of helping us to remember, all right? So now, where and how, this is where your lemonade comes in, the intervention. Where do we go for treatment and where do we go for help, all right? As I said, medication is one form of it, and this can only be done by a trained professional such as physician, doctors, psychiatrists, and if they have diagnosed us with this, then that is where part of the treatment comes from. But there are other forms of treatment, and increasingly more and more persons are choosing this area of treatment where psychological intervention and counseling can prove to be as effective, sometimes complementing medication as well. And in fact, look at this, even lifestyle changes, all right? And I'll show you even more. I like to share this with you. I find this very helpful. If you are already feeling the blues and you think it's going somewhere more serious into blue-black, then this negative thinking calibration, if you like, is something that's very helpful. Challenging negative thinking habits involves this. Asking yourself the following: do I tend to jump to negative conclusion most of the time? Some of us do it sometimes, that's all right. But if you're consistently jumping to negative conclusion, it can reflect something about, giving you a hint about your thinking habits. Are you repeatedly, regularly, always inflating the negative? In our common terms, we may call it what you call over, making a mountain out of the molehill, right? Are you better? Is it better that are you able to see the whole picture instead of just seeing that tiny little dot? In counseling terms, we call it mental filtering. Am I blaming myself for everything that goes wrong? It is always my fault. Do you always hold yourself responsible for everything? What about this? Instead of blaming myself, do I blame someone else? Do I get angry with others frequently? Do you hear yourself saying, if only I should have? All right. Overgeneralizing is another clue of negative thinking patterns. You, always, everyone else, blaming yourself for things. Do I tend to give up easily? Always, oh, I can't do that, I can't do this, what's the point, I'll never get it done. Do you underestimate your ability to recover from painful situations, from life challenges? Do you always think that, oh no, I'm going to get it, I'll never be strong enough? Never believing in your own strength and in your own resilience. And this one, I'm sure you're familiar with this: catastrophizing, blowing things out of proportion, like making a mountain out of a molehill. What about this? Black and white thinking, never being able to see gray. Always is either this or that, and you can never be flexible. So avoid all this negative thinking. That will help you again to get sucked into that depressive hole. Now, I want to share this again, very interesting ABC model that is very what I call linked and made famous, or rather by the Dr. Albert Ellis, who believes this ABC model tells us that usually events, when something happens, if you can look at this box below, something happens and then we have an outcome, all right? We are angry, something happens, let's say someone shouts at me and then I get angry. Dr. Ellis believes that this bridge here, the belief system, our thought pattern here, is the clue to help us change things. It is not this A that affects here, but if we can do something about this bridge here, it can help us to feel stronger. All right. So a lot of times, many of us, we try to tell ourselves, don't be angry, don't feel irritated, don't this and that. And in fact, that is the wrong way to go about it. Let me show you again an example and how we recalibrate or change our cognitive thinking patterns. Think of an adverse event, all right? And that can either result in negative thoughts, which will bring about negative feelings, and we eventually have no motivation to resolve something. It becomes a very passive response. However, if we do respond with a positive thought, and that can give us some positive feelings, that can also give a bit of more motivation and more resilience to want to actively respond to an issue. So how, the clue is this, how we respond to an adverse situation determines whether the problem gets resolved or not. Not so much the adverse event that causes us to feel upset. All right. So if we look at this situation, the ABC again, if I were to use an example, I meet you across the hallway and I say, hi, Guan Ming, how are you? And if Guan Ming doesn't respond to me, he's still on his handphone, I can jump to a conclusion that he is upset with me or he does not like me. I said something to him. That was what's going on in my belief and in my thought pattern about that event. But if I want to change that, dispute and challenge that irrational belief, I say, no, Kuan Ming could be very involved in some situation, he's caught up with something, and I dispute that, I can replace this negative thought with something different so that I can have a better outcome and consequence to this negative event. It is something like seeing this overrated metaphor of having a half glass full empty or half full or half empty. But I always like to say that maybe it's not whether the glass is full or empty, but more whether, in fact, are you able to have that attitude of gratitude where you even have a glass in the first place. All right, you have a glass to fill the water. Don't worry about whether it's full or empty. You do have a glass. So I like to just come up with a little quiz to see in this quiz to ask yourself which of the following correct acronym helps you to remember symptoms of depression. Is it sad pages? Is it mad cages, sad cages, or mad pages? Now, I'm not going to ask Guan Ming to take over here to see what are your responses because we may be running out of time. But I think it is quite obvious, right? You know the drill. What is the answer? All right, remember what sad cages stands for. Every time you want to know whether are you having the symptoms of anxiety, depression, so forth, remember sad cages and try to remember what it stands for. Now, where do we go to seek help? Many places. And I'm glad, again, the reflection statement earlier on, a lot of you know where you to go for help. These are some of the lists on where you can go. And in fact, during this COVID situation, there is also a national helpline. Counseling centers and helplines are aplenty. Singapore, we are blessed with so many of it. Silver Ribbon is one of the key leaders in this area of mental health do Google and see how you can use their service. Other groups in our community, they have done many things to help us have greater awareness of our mental health. And in fact, we are not the lesser for that. We are very blessed in Singapore to have all of that. So here we are. We have done this. We have covered the areas of anxiety, depression treatment, and some intervention. And in fact, you know the drill, right? How to deal with symptoms. Basically, if you have the basic methods in place, you are good. All right. Eat well. Remember, sleep. Have good enough sleep. Be kind to yourself. Talk about your feelings. Always have good support system. And if you like a reference for some readings as well, I recommend this our local writer where he talks about the misunderstood illness. So go and borrow this book from the library if you can. Otherwise, let me end off, all right, with my favorite. I think more than any lemonade, more than anything that you can do to battle the blues, all right, God's word, the holy word, the Bible is better than any lemonade that you can, have for yourself. Better than any intervention. If you have the Lord's word in your heart, remember, this is going to battle and beat the blues anytime. This is my favorite. Cast your burdens on him. I have lots of it. I just like to share 3 with you. And I'm sure anytime, always arm yourself. Have this ready. Don't wait until you are having the blues that you start to scramble for it. Have favorite verses that you can just quote and challenge your negative thoughts. And here is another video I'd like to share with you. It's another of my favorite. It's a very uplifting song, and I end this with, and I hope that you will benefit from this as well.
Problem too big, God cannot solve it. There is no mountain too tall, He cannot move it. There is no storm too dark, God cannot calm it. There is no sorrow too deep, He cannot soothe it. If He carried the weight of the world upon His shoulder, I know my brother that He will carry you. Shoulders, I know my sister that He will carry you. He said, come unto me, all who are weary, and shoulder, I know my brother that He will carry you. If He carried the weight of the world upon His shoulder, I know my sister that He will carry you.
Okay, I was just so sorry to interrupt and stop that, but I think time is drawing on. So let me just stop sharing here, Guan Ming, and
Yeah.
allow the participants, in case they have other appointments, to get on for
Yes,
the
I was just
second.
wondering whether would you have like another 10 minutes to just take some questions from the participants.
Sure, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
So
participants can feel
yeah.
free. If they need to go off, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, I will stay here and respond to any questions that anybody may like to pose. Thank you, everyone, for your sharing.
Yep. So just let me. Okay. So if you have question, yeah, what you can do is that the same thing. Just scan the QR code that's coming out, right? Scan the QR code and then you can just send us your answer itself, your questions, and we'll try to address them as many as we can within the limit itself. So just scan the QR code and then send us your answer, and we'll ask Benson to address them as best as we can.
Or you can also make comments if you like. It doesn't have to be a question.
Yeah.
It can be a comment, it can be your thoughts, it can be anything, right? Just share freely.
So we just wait for a while you key in your questions or comments. Right, just scan the QR code and you can just send in your questions or your comments. Okay, any questions for Benson about anxiety, depression? Yes, the first question is, what is the title of the book that you have just recommended?
I believe it is Depression, the Misunderstood Illness. But how about this, Guan Ming? After this, I will email to you the exact book and reference so that anyone interested can just get to you.
Yeah, I think that would be marvelous. Yeah, so we will email out to you the title of the book itself. Yeah, and then you can go ahead and either get a copy or borrow it from the library. Questions for you, Benson.
Okay.
What are some practical measures that we can implement today? Example, what foods are known to help moods?
Now, practical measures, I've already mentioned that in some of my slides, right? In terms of like eat well, sleep well, that kind of thing. I'm a bit careful in recommending what foods are known to help moods because I'm not an expert in that area. I think it would be more prudent if you are interested in this to refer either to recommended sources in either Ministry of Health website or in persons who are trained in that area for some recommendations, right? Although you can Google, there are various guidelines. Sometimes they felt that certain, for example, certain foods that are too rich. Remember, I showed you that slide. Carbohydrates, fibers, and certain things too high protein. It does affect, and again, it depends on your body makeup, right? Because we are also different. What can perk a person up may be different for another person, and what affects me may not affect you. So do please seek the appropriate help from persons who are trained.
Yeah, thank you. So do seek the appropriate help in terms of food. Next question. Besides counselors, are herbs effective for depression?
Oh my! I'm not in the area of TCM, and but I do know of persons who are really TCM experts and or persons in the medical arena who knows who will be able to recommend this. Again, I am hesitant to talk about whether herbs can help in whatever way. Again, I'm not an expert in that area, but I do hear that sometimes it does impact. Yes.
Okay, thank you. There are quite a number of people who wanted to ask this question. How do I help someone who is depressed, who does not want to see a doctor?
Very good question. I was hoping this question will be surfaced. We noticed just now, right, Guan Ming, we saw the reflection questions, and we saw that in fact in the statistics that people take 4 years or more, right, to seek help. Because I strongly believe that although Singapore has come a long way, and we have how we perceive and deal with depression today is so different a decade or 2 decades ago, right? We are a lot more open, and the younger generations also, they are a lot more open. Nevertheless, people are still holding back. We are still not wanting to admit that we may be struggling through this. And someone who is very caring comes along and suggests that you see a doctor. They may also not want to do that. I think the best way to do that is to persevere and not give up, especially if you have a good, positive, supportive relationship with that person whom you think is at risk. All right. Don't think, if you ask the person once, hey, would you like to consult someone? Would you like to see a counselor? Would you like to seek help? And the person reject, don't just give up the next day. He may feel differently the next day, the next week, the next month. As long as you are still supporting in that supportive relationship with him, even though he is resistant, my clue is this: persistent does pay off in a non-irritating way. Okay, don't persist in a way where he's upset and then you lose the relationship eventually. But as long as you continue to give the message of care, I want you to go because I care about you, and whatever it is, don't tell a person go and see a doctor, because they will never do that. It is better to say, let me go with you to see a doctor. I tell you what, how about I fix an appointment? I know someone. Shall we go together? That kind of thing. Supportively, gentle, slow, persuasive, caring, loving method. That will help if he doesn't want to see. All right.
Thank you. Yeah, the next question is, how can we appropriately respond to someone who tells us they are depressed?
I believe the best, most helpful way is don't judge. All right? Don't judge. Don't manifest fear, especially if you are having it inside, because remember, it does show. Don't demonstrate shock. Let's say I'm a counselor and I tell you I'm depressed. Don't respond to me, Ben, how can you be depressed? You're a counselor. Pastor, how can you be depressed? You're a pastor. Guan Ming, how can you be depressed? You're in this line of work where you're surrounded by so many caring persons, you know. Don't do that, all right? Best method, don't judge. Be as supportive, be as kind, be as caring as much as you can. If you don't know what to say, again, the best clue, remember, don't say anything. Just keep telling the person, I'm here with you. I will journey with you. I will stay with you. You have me, all right? Anyone else, you have me. That, I believe, is the best response.
Thank you. Thank you. 5 more questions. Can a person be depressed if he or she looks happy?
Possible. I think people do tend to mask. We all wear masks, we cover up, and especially if we have a lot to lose in terms of face, in terms of a front that we are carrying, people can put on a mask. But I believe it depends on the nature of my relationship with this person. The closer I am with this person, I can tell. I can read through beyond the line, so to speak. So it really depends on the nature of the relationship. The more distant and the more superficial my relationship, I will not be able to know for sure. But sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It is true that sometimes a happy face hides a lot of hurt.
Yes.
Yeah. The next questions. Any effective ways to avoid overthinking?
I remember I shared the ABC model, and I went through the negative thinking steps. There are a few of that. A lot of it has to do with what we call cognitive restructuring and reframing. Okay, these are counseling terms, but um, I always tell my clients this, there is no such thing as a wrong thought or a right thought, or a good emotion or a negative or right emotion, rather a right emotion or a wrong emotion, because feelings are feelings. There's no such thing as a wrong emotion. If I feel angry, I feel angry. If I feel jealous, it's just that. All right. But I think the key question we need to ask is, are these thoughts, are these feelings helpful? Is it helpful for me? If by thinking and thinking it is not helping me, why do I want to go that area? All right. Ways to avoid it would be to challenge those irrational thoughts, to go through that thought and tell myself, all right, uh, it's not helping me. Let me stop. And what way would be distraction? Okay, would be distraction, reframing, change to think about something else. Of course, these are just very superficial, very brief recommendations. If we really want to do that, I think counseling, a few sessions to help you do overthinking would be more impactful.
Yeah, thank you. I think some of us are by nature overthinker.
Yes.
But I think the ABCD steps was pretty helpful just now that you share. Disruption, changing the kind of thoughts and replacing it with other thought itself. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, I'm not sure whether you are able to answer
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. I
Can
think that's, yeah.
naturopaths treat depression?
Yeah, I again, please seek the professional experts. I don't want to lead you into wrong guidelines where it may not be accurate.
Okay, so what kind of physical exercise is best for lifting modes?
Wow, maybe the sky is the limit. Lifting weights. For me, I go for runs. I go to the gym. I even just a simple. But some people, we are all different, right? Other people, they do line dancing. Other people, they do yoga. All right, or a simple just stretching can lift moods. I hope you can indulge with me in a little bit more time. I just want to share one thing. When I'm doing counseling with persons who are depressed, I do have clients. Sometimes all they need to do is to get up from their chair. Can you believe that? They are so depressed, just not wanting to do anything. They are slumped in their whatever position, and it is like that for 24/7. They just don't want to do anything. And sometimes my intervention method is daily calling them and say, hey, John, Mary, get up, draw the curtains, all right, look outside. That simple method alone can just lift up their moods because they just don't want to do anything. They just don't have the strength. Okay, so it's a lot of things.
Yeah. Is it correct to say that just do the activities that you enjoy doing?
Yeah. Especially that is even more beneficial. It is even more powerful because if you enjoy doing it, the motivation is double, right? If you don't enjoy it, it's worse. You've got a double challenge.
Yes. So do something that you do enjoy, and I believe that will contribute to lifting up your mood. Next one, medication for depression are known to have side effects. What's your advice? I guess
I again don't want
seek
to go
the
there.
seek
Medication
the
for the expert.
professional help.
Yes.
Yes.
We can
Yes.
debate. There are lots of speculation on that, but again, it is the experts who will share with us. And this last question here, Huang Meng, how to help depressed person who don't want to talk, is the same as that previous one that I already addressed. If someone doesn't want to go and see a doctor, or same thing, perseverance, stay with him, don't give up, just be there for that person.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's all for the questions that we have. And yeah, really thank you, Benson, for bringing us this morning through such a topic. I think it's very helpful as a general guide and overview of what anxiety and depression are, and to give us some tips, some general ways and methods of helping ourselves to manage that. Yeah, just one note here, which you have mentioned before, that sometimes we do feel anxious, sometimes we do have low moods, but it doesn't mean that we are having depression. Yeah, like for me, sometimes I do have anxiety attack. But like what you say, if it's a prolonged and you have 5 of the symptoms, right, then you might want to consider 2.
2 weeks or more.
Yeah, correct.
2. All right. 5 symptoms for 2 weeks or more.
Yeah, so if you do have that, then you probably will want to consider to seek professional help if you have 5 symptoms and over 2 weeks. Yeah, so remember that. Okay, so if not, probably it might be part of life. We do have sometimes feel a bit down, a bit anxious about things. Yeah, but I guess to have someone to talk to during those periods would be pretty helpful. Am I right, Benson?
Definitely, absolutely.
Yeah, so have a good conversation partner. If you don't have, join the cell group. Cell group will be a good place for you to find people to talk to. Yeah, and do engage in some activities that you do enjoy, like line dancing or just go to the park for a stroll, or go to gym if you are those who do gym, or to have a swim now that we can do swimming. Yeah, so yes, do something that you do enjoy. I think that would definitely lift up your mood and find someone to talk to. Of course, finally, to pray and to come before God, that would very much helpful as well. God is definitely, we have the song, what a friend we have in Jesus. He hears us and he will be with us. Yeah. So maybe you can just end this time with a prayer. So may I invite Benson just close us in prayer.
Sure. Heavenly Father, we are always so privileged to so quickly call on your name, to just so very quickly seek your presence and seek your support, because Father, we always remember that indeed you are our shelter, our refuge. In fact, we run to you and we know that you will cover us with your wings. Thank you for your assurance that just having the blues occasionally is not something to be afraid of. In fact, it's part of life. And for reminding us that, showing us how to look out for symptoms, that if it should get worse, Lord, that we know where and who to go for help. But above all, Father, we thank you that you are our source of help, our source of refuge in times of trouble. In fact, it is indeed in you, O God, that we trust. So thank you, Father, for providing us with the strength every day to meet all our daily and everyday little challenges and big challenges. Thank you for carrying us through. And we want to commit the rest of the weekend to you, commit our rest of all the participants who signed in and everyone at Paya Lebar Methodist Church. And we want also to thank you for Kwan Meng and his work, his ministry in Paya Lebar. Continue to bless him and sustain him and strengthen him. Thank you, Father. We pray all this in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Benson. Yeah, for those who have signed in this morning, there are other upcoming webinars and courses that you can check it out at today.plmc. There will be more information there. The one that is coming up in April is Christians and Pandemics in History, Lessons for Today. That is by Dr. Lai Pakwa, and with a panel together with Mr. Edward Loh and Pastor Alex. So you might want to check that out. And we also have the upcoming Alpha course. So if you know of anyone who might benefit from attending the Alpha course, you might want to encourage them, especially those who are seeking to understand the Christian faith or exploring the Christian faith. You might want to encourage them to sign up for the course itself. Yeah, and definitely the end of July, we have a Skills Future Advice webinar that's coming up. That will be very good for us who are looking at how to bridge the digital or the technology disruption, right? To know what are the trends and what are the skills that we needed for future. And for those who join the Skills Future Advice, you actually offer a free course by the Skills Future organization itself. So do check out all these webinars that's coming up if you are interested in them. So if you like this morning's sharing and webinar with Benson, do let us know, right? You can comment at the YouTube comment, or you can just click the like, the thumbs up, so that we know that you have benefited from there. And there's also encouragement both to Benson and myself as we continue to bring more webinars to you that are helpful for each one of us during this period of time. So once again, thank you, Benson, and for bringing us through this morning. So I'll see you again. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you. Have a
Bye.
good weekend.
You
Have a
too.
good weekend. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.